everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. A while back, Harry participated in this panel discussion at what I think was called the Dealbook Summit. And this was a selection of interviews and sort of panel discussions that were with very high-powered people. And Harry, who had no business being there because he is not a businessman at all, in any way, shape, or form, looked mad the entire time he participated. And I believe the root of that was insecurity. Let me explain why. He clearly knows that he is not on the same level as these other esteemed guests who were being interviewed, like Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Google. And then we have Harold. Really? He's literally only famous because of who his family is. He's never built anything. He didn't start anything. He hasn't done any business dealings that have been impressive. He doesn't even have an impressive investment portfolio. If he did, I guarantee we'd be hearing about it. He's not an impressive scholar. He's not particularly accomplished in any way, shape, or form. Accomplished at complaining, maybe. When you're inserting yourself or allowing yourself to enter a space by accepting an invitation where you do not belong, you are putting yourself on edge and making yourself feel very defensive. Because you are insecure in those situations, because you know better. You know that you don't have the business acumen or the track record to be able to be amongst these other people who are very smart and business-minded and have built impressive things themselves and who are able to manage really big, impressive companies on their own. You don't belong there, Harold. Anytime you're in over your head, it's stressful. And a lot of times we're put in situations where we're in over our head, not by our own choice. It just happens to us, and we have to figure it out along the way. But Harry literally put himself in this position because he either reached out or his team reached out and asked to be included in this, or they reached out to him and invited him, at which point he could have said, "No thanks. Not sure I deliver much value to this crowd." But in Harry's case, he either didn't care or wasn't aware that just how out of his league he was at that moment. And so it's that imposter syndrome, whether you're aware of it or not, or these feelings of inadequacy that were clearly bubbling up in Harry during this panel. And they're in direct conflict with his ginormous ego. And so he feels both entitled to be there and anxious about being there at the same time. So no wonder he looks so cranky. And during the interview, this was further evidenced that he was very clearly out of his depth, because he ended up making himself look foolish and revealing his hypocrisy. He whined that the palace had a working relationship with the press, which we've been over, is a completely normal and professional, mostly cordial relationship. A dynamic that is closely monitored and relatively controlled that affords the monarchy exposure, which is important and essential, while expanding privacy for the children and the members of the family when they're not on official duties or at events. But he has whined about that as if it's wrong, but then here he's essentially trying to imply that he'll talk to any news organizations that will offer him and the Meg exclusively positive press. But each time he was challenged about this or asked, well, how do you decide what is good or reliable sources or not, Harry really was not prepared for this. At another point in the interview where he claims not to read anything, which I think most people don't believe. If you're in the public eye, you're certainly reading at least some things. And if you read any news at all, you'll occasionally see news about yourself. But when the interviewer expanded upon that, in a way that I don't think Harry has previously experienced very often, he said that he reads press coverage only when necessary. And he only knows it's necessary when his team tells him so. Still, a hole in his story arises. Who determines what is worth laying before Harry? Who is the person controlling his stream of press coverage? It just makes no sense. Either he's a man baby who can't handle reading press, or he's completely unaware of how good or bad the press is and has someone else filtering it based on their own opinions. None of it makes sense, and neither sound like a very good way to go about things. Additionally, he said that he would continue his court cases because he wants accountability, when, as many other commenters have said, is incredibly hypocritical coming from someone who takes no accountability himself. Over the years, we've never heard Harry and Meghan say that they've made a mistake ever, not even once. It's ridiculous. Another point that came up for both Harry and Meghan, really, as many of you also noted, was the security for the Sussexes being incredibly excessive, much like their concern about the media being incredibly excessive. Harry and Meghan are overly concerned with press, media, staff, all of it. And this made a lot of people start to think about just how over the top Harry is about all of this. He's over the top about the press, which was the main subject of conversation with this panel discussion or interview, whatever you want to call it. It was completely boring and unnecessary in so many ways. But they're also super excessive about the security stuff, which his court cases have been back in the news lately because, of course, he's been accused of destroying evidence and wasting the court's time. And he's just so hell-bent on continuing this security thing, which makes the public then have a conversation about what is it that he's so concerned about? Is this security stuff really necessary for Harry? One of the pitfalls of this court case is just how long it's been drawn out, giving the public so much more opportunity, as well as the people involved in the case, so much more opportunity to come to the conclusion that his requests for security are so excessive. And nothing highlights it better than when you compare it to the actual real royals. The public has begun to see exactly what the big difference is. There's security to keep crowds in control who are there to see you because they're excited, like we see with King Charles and the Prince and Princess of Wales and Queen Camilla and all the royals, Princess Anne, Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. When they're out on official duties, people come to see them and they're excited. And there needs to be enough security there to make sure all of those people still stay safe and don't, squish each other and things like that. But also to keep the royals safe, of course, and to keep the entire area safe and clear and traffic safe, all of those things. But what Harry and Meghan are dealing with is a completely different beast. They need security to keep away people who will boo you and people who dislike you. Harry and Meghan know that they have made a lot of people mad. And now they're worried. They don't want to be heckled. They don't want reporters asking awkward questions the way tabloids do. For example, TMZ or other independent reporters, they'll just throw out the most juicy of questions while filming you while you're just going about your day. You're getting your coffee. Celebrities have crazy questions flung at them as they're walking to their car with their Starbucks. And all the while, TMZ or other tabloids or journalists have the camera in their face, so they can't react. They have to keep their cool and just put up with the sometimes ridiculous questions, sometimes valid questions. For Harry and Meghan, that would look like people asking them, why did you accuse the royal family of racism and then take it back? Have you apologized to your family? Are you going to apologize to your family? Why did you lie about this, that, and the other thing? What's up with how you're walking in those high heels? Those are the types of questions Harry and Meghan would be getting thrown at them if it weren't for that excessive amount of security forbidding those tabloid reporters and TMZ and those types of people from getting close. As well as all the boos. They can't have the boos like they did at the Platinum Jubilee. It was clear just how much that upset them. And ever since, the Meg won't step out of the airport in the UK or won't come to the UK at all. There's this huge difference between those two things. Security to keep those types of things away and those negative experiences away, or security to just keep things calm, orderly, and safe when there's hundreds of admirers lined up to see you. The royals who are really well liked, especially somebody like Princess Catherine, or as we saw with Diana, there's so many people who come to just see them, shake their hand. But it's coming from a very positive place. It's coming from love and admiration. It's coming from respect, from just wanting to see that person because they inspire you. For the Sussexes, it's the complete opposite. The only questions reporters want to ask them is about the drama that they've created around themselves or about negative things. For the Sussexes, it's very, very different. There isn't a bunch of admirers and people who want to see them and meet them and shake their hand and just get a picture with them or just lay eyes on them in real life. That's not a thing for the Sussexes, but it very much is for the royals. For the Sussexes, the only people who want to try to show up to wherever they're going to be are reporters who want to ask them those juicy questions and get those more embarrassing pictures or those more embarrassing video clips or just unfortunate, I guess you could say, video clips of asking them those sorts of awkward questions about all the drama that they've created around themselves. There's no positive vibes. There's no groups of people who cared to show up just to see the Sussexes going about their business. It's just not a thing. And that's a big part of why it looks so strange to have that many security guards and that much staff. Because there's no members of the public or floods of paparazzi for the security to worry about and keep away from the Sussexes. They're just not there. There's just Backrit, who the Meg tips off, and they don't ask questions. That's it. They're just standing there. And so the excessive numbers of security stands out all the more with the Sussexes. If they were popular, if Harry and Meghan were nice people who people were excited to see, and there were a lot of people coming and showing up to see them and be near where they're going to be, following them around, if there were multiple paparazzi or they weren't so afraid of those types of questions, then maybe that amount of security would make sense. But there's not. So it just looks strange and ridiculous. And I think that's another thing that I think contributed greatly to the Meg's negative feelings towards the press and her experience in general as a working royal. Media coverage, she came from TV business. Not exactly the same as Hollywood. Hollywood show business is like the top of the tier. The TV show business, it's a form of show business. It's a little bit different, just like Broadway is a little bit different. But the media that she experienced in her little bubble of cable TV show business was very, very different. Her publicity and her experience with the media through that realm of that show business was very, very different to the press coverage and the media relations of the royals. Very different things, very different groups of people, and very different types of journalists. The interviews, events that she attended, even red carpets that she attended, were all designed to promote the show Suits. So the hired photographers, the interviewers, all of the people around those events that she engaged with were hired specifically to help promote the show and therefore showcase the actors in a positive light, including the Meg. And that's very, very different from journalists and general news press for public interest stories about public figures, for example, royals, politicians, other people who are just big in the public eye, who are there to report the facts and get information that's real and tangible. It was used to that sort of filtered, we're here to make you look good type of press that's not actually press, but rather promotion that's very, very common in show business. So she was not prepared for real press, how real press was. In her Suits days, only the superest of super fans were that interested in Meghan as a person, like her personal life, her as a human. There wasn't a whole lot of interest in that, not enough for real journalists or paparazzi to follow her around. But with the royals, very different story. And so I think this shift in dynamic was something that she still doesn't fully grasp. That reporters and tabloids and press in general isn't just there to report on what you want them to or what you decide to make you look good. It's there to report on the actual stuff happening, and whether you look good or not depends on your behavior. Whether you come across good or not depends on your behavior. Totally different animal, and one that I think was a big point of struggle for Meghan Markle. But what do you think? Thank you so much for joining me for today's update. I will be back very soon with more content for you. I missed a lot while I was away, so I'm excited to get these videos out to you. Leave in the comments anything else that you want me to cover, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye!